This episode is brought to you by the Toyota Grand Highlander. Life's journey brings constant change filled with exciting surprises and grand challenges. And with its spaciousness, power, and style, the Toyota Grand Highlander is more than a vehicle. It's your partner in embracing all life throws at you. From the spacious adult-sized third row to seating for up to 8 passengers, the Toyota Grand Highlander is up for every grand challenge. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
Kush Maini, thank you very much for having this chat with me. Out of all the other chats that we keep having, it's good to have you on video talking about what we love, which is motorsport, what I love, which is your career in through the ladder of Formula One. It's pretty exciting. Lots of interesting historic things that have happened in the last few days. Of course, you got announced as Alpine's official test and reserve driver. By my understanding, you become the first Indian to actually have an official position with a works Formula One team. Because Naren, of course, was with Jordan and Williams and HRT. None of them were works teams. Karun had his fair share of teams as well. But you become the first Indian with a works team contract. How does that feel?
I think, after last year, which was a very tough year for me due to many reasons, but to have this news and to have Alpine still backing me and seeing that the TPC tests I did was very successful and the simulator work, it's a great boost of confidence for myself. And also, I'm a step closer to my eventual goal, even though we had a tough year. And for me, I wouldn't take anything back because I feel mentally it taught me a lot, and I feel like I'm ready for anything this year. In a way, we're still inching closer to the goal. It's taking time, but it'll be worth it one day, hopefully.
Absolutely. Sadda plan, Namma plan. We love these two hashtags that Jehan started and then you've had on your social media handles. A large set of fans actually writing back in. I think there were almost 100 responses, 100 questions that came in when I told people I'm talking to you today. And I said there were two historic things that happened. First was you historically being announced as an Alpine official test and reserve driver, the first Indian with a works team. Like I said, the second was for the first time ever after doing a test in Abu Dhabi last year. So pretty much the first time Formula One was broadcast in Hindi in India on fan code. Okay, and the broadcast was fantastic. Somebody we know in common who, we hosted an event with you in Bangalore last year. Soumil Arora was one of the voices. The other one is Chetan Narula, two very experienced motorsport commentators. They get to do this in Hindi. I'm pretty sure, I know you were in the cockpit when all of that was happening, but what are your thoughts on Hindi being one of the key languages to broadcast a sport in India?
I mean, I had no idea about this, so that's amazing, man. Like, I have to watch it now. I mean, China's coming out, so I might watch in Hindi then. No, it's amazing. I think that's the first time it's ever happened, and even for Sommel and the other respective commentator, it's like for them as well, it's massive, and just for every Indian to show. Obviously, cricket's always been broadcasted in Hindi as well. And, I feel like this is going to be a bigger connection with another part of this country, and our country is going to feel closer and more involved when it's broadcasted in Hindi. So that's great. That's great news. I hope F2. I hope F2 will be broadcasted in Hindi. That'll be cool.
That would be incredible. No, imagine just the newer audiences who will get to witness you racing in Formula 2. I'm going to make that plea to fan code. I'm sure a lot of fans also will, bringing in those newer audiences. And so historic things that we spoke of. I'm, of course, proudly flaunting the Indian flag, given all the great moments that have happened. Now, can we dig in deeper to your your journey with Alpine and how you've sort of been promoted this year? Because you said something very interesting, that the TPC tests were really good, right? So where were you when you actually got to know of the Alpine news of you being promoted as the official test and reserve driver?
It's obviously it's been over like a long period of time. So I mean, the talks of this started like 4 or 5 months ago. So it's a long process of it always. But obviously F2, like we said, we got loads of podiums and the win and pole, but it didn't really go to plan. But F1 teams do look outside of F2 as well. They know that F2 can be hit and miss sometimes. So I was very fortunate to have done 4 days in the Alpine F1 car, which had gone really well. And the simulator work, they were really happy with my feedback and etc. So that's really what saved me, and that's really what got me this promotion. So it's just amazing to see that the support they give you, and they don't just push you to the side if you don't perform. In the end, like, I do have to perform in F2 if I want that seat. So this year is going to be very crucial. But it's great to see that I got another chance, knowing that I did well in the tests and in the simulator work. So yeah.
That's a very honest way of putting it, because yes, F2 did not go to plan last year. You and I had lots of conversations around what was happening. Pretty much every fan that I interacted with on social media was so concerned, and lots of them looking forward to you sort of breaking down what your F2 journey has also been like. So we'll get to that. But have you had a chance to celebrate this historic moment of your being promoted to the Alpine team?
No, it is historic, and with my family and stuff, it's a great milestone to have achieved. But it's season started now, and that's what's important, and that's what my goal is set on. I think performing to, I can easily say, oh, winning the championship, this and that, but I just want to perform to what I'm capable of and what I know. And last year was definitely not. I mean, at the end of the day, I was like, this is not. I haven't shown anything really. Only flashes of it. So for me, just showing what I'm capable of to the world, to the F1 teams, and then whatever happens, happens. But as long as I do that, I can go to sleep happy. And
that's nice. Because were you at some point expecting, or were you surprised by this continuation of relationship with Alpine? And I say this with what you said, that what you faced in Formula 2 last year was not who you actually were. So was it like a pleasant surprise? Did you think that the relationship would go away? Because not only has the relationship stayed strong, it's gotten stronger with now you being promoted from, being only a junior driver to the official test and reserve driver.
No, obviously, like, start of the year last year, when obviously I did the poles and the podiums, and the first 4 races was very strong. I was in actually a very good position then. I was, I think, third in the championship, whatever. I was in a very good position, but obviously it all went downhill after that, really. Just some races I was like a second and a half off, which was just so confusing on my side. And it's one of those things where I'll just never have the answer. And I just need to move on and keep the faith, because that can really hit your confidence. But as soon as I jumped into the Dams car at the end of the year, that confidence came back and that feeling came back, how I felt in the first few races. So for sure, like, in the middle of the season, I was like, yeah, the F2, if I was only doing F2, I would have definitely been like, this is the end for me. Like, Alpine are going to ditch me. But I knew that the F1 test had gone really well, and I knew they liked my attitude. They liked me on the sim, and I knew there was a small chance. Then I got the news that will be official test and reserve. Obviously, that just means that I'm closer to the goal of driving on an F1 weekend. So let's say I perform in F2 and I'm leading the championship or top 3, that opens doors for me to do FP1s and etc. So as nothing's set in stone yet on what I'm going to do in the official F1 weekends, there's definitely all chances to do any of the whatever the rookie test, the FP1s. They're all opportunities. I just need to show what I can do on the F2 weekends.
Wow. There's a lot of hope, a lot of ambitions, a lot of aspirations with the relationship you have strengthened further with Alpine. But just one last word. What was Alpine's take on your 2024 Formula 2 season? Because you started off strong and then suddenly things that shouldn't be said publicly happened. Okay. And then there was a strong taper, drop in performance that happened. And of course, you helped Invicta win the team's championship, right? But what was Alpine's reaction to your season? And they experienced something similar with Jack Doohan a couple of seasons ago, that strong driver, but the package was just not coming together.
Yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But I think Alpine see my data in the F1 car, and they know what I'm capable of as a driver. Obviously, how strong we were in the first 4 races as well. That's like flashes of what it felt like when everything was going well. Obviously, I can't discuss everything on what was going on, and honestly, to some of the questions, I don't even have answers yet, and I just have to let it go and focus on the season. But it was just a very confusing season, and I'm just glad that Alpine gave me the benefit of the doubt. And obviously, not every driver has an opportunity to jump in the F1 car and show them what they can do. So I'm glad I had that, because I feel without that, it would be very difficult to be where I am now.
I'm going to lighten up the mood a little bit. How is it to deal with Flavio Briatore? I have to ask you that.
No, I've had limited interactions with him, but I speak Italian, so I spoke to him.
I didn't know that. Despite having known you for so many years, you speak Italian. That's incredible.
In karting and stuff. So we exchanged a few words in Italian, obviously with Ollie as well. I raced for Ollie in 2020 in British F3. I was actually going to take a year out that year, and he gave me the drive with High Tech, because we obviously lost all our funding because of COVID, and he helped me out there and gave me the whole year, and we did a decent year together. So I know Ollie really well. We have a very good relationship, and no, he's always there. So if I ever need something, I go and speak to him. And then obviously Julian and Jack are part of the academy as well. They're with me the whole year, really around the paddock, and then keeping an eye on me, and hopefully, and I mean, working towards not avoiding what happened last year.
But that's wonderful, because it's been a mix of your performances in Formula 2, in the Formula 1 car, previous relationships, like you mentioned with Oliver Oakes and the likes, and everyone's believed that you're a lot better than what was actually shown in 2024, especially in the second half of that season. But lots of fans are eager to know, how many races will you be attending with Alpine? I know there's a lot of overlap with the Formula 1 and Formula 2 weekends, but how many races are you scheduled to attend, just at the top of your head?
So obviously, all of the F2 races, I'll be going after my F2 weekend and spending time there. And as to after my F2, my 14 race commitment with F2, it's still under works, but obviously we have 4 reserve drivers, so everyone is obviously we don't need 4 reserve drivers every race, so that process is still happening on who goes where. But yeah, once I know, I'll definitely let you know, Kunal, straight away.
Thank you. Yeah. But you rightly pointed out, you're the only active single-seater racer amongst all the reserve drivers. So that's, you're the busier of all the 4 reserve drivers that there are. But given that there's 4 of y'all, on one hand, y'all have to collaborate to help Alpine get quicker. On the other hand, you have to compete as well, right? Because all of y'all want that 1 or 2 cockpits, or whenever that opens. But it is, 4 drivers or 6 drivers vying for those 2 cockpits. So what's your equation, say, with the other drivers? I know you and Jack are very good friends, for example, but what's your equation with all the drivers in Alpine Formula 1 team?
No, I think I've met Rio like a couple times. He seems very down to earth and nice. Frank, obviously, I raced with him in F2 and even in F3. And Paul, I raced in F2 last year. But no, I feel in a way I'm kind of lucky to still be racing and being fresh. And obviously results are very important. But let's say I do get the results, then I've been in the car this year and I've started races and I've known how that felt, because that's a big thing. So yeah, I just need to do my job, and I'm just glad to be racing still and keeping fresh and keeping sharp. That's the most important thing.
But in general, I believe you all still have to be friends. You all still have to be people who get along, because that's where the team spirit also lies. I guess the competition comes in only when y'all are in the cockpit, if that's a way to sort of put it. And let's hence then expand into how are y'all distributing the roles. Like, what are you exactly going to do along with a TPC test or a couple of TPC tests that you have planned? You said simulator sessions. Any depth that we can go into? How many? Do you know when you're going to do a TPC test next?
That's yet to be decided, but there will be. I'll be doing obviously a lot of stuff on the sim as well, but in the TPC stuff as well, trying stuff for the race team, giving my feedback as a driver, and just being with the team on the races as well. Every like the 14 weekends, I am just going and hanging out with the engineers, building a relationship on that side as well. And yeah, it's mostly contracts like this, which is an F1 contract really, and an F1 team is very, very dependable on how you perform. In the end, like, a door can shut if you don't perform well, but if you do perform well, let's say halfway through the season, 10 doors will open. Sort of like a role like a reserve driver is like you're just outside that door, and the more you perform, the more that door creaks open. And so it all depends really on how I perform and how I do. And that's completely understandable. F1's very competitive, and the teams want the best, so you've got to show that you are.
Absolutely. And no prizes for guessing who asked the next question. Papa, you have to ask Kush Bhai when he's testing next, because we have to go and cheer for him. So Antara was very excited when I told her I'm talking to you. And, I was explaining to her that you may have an opportunity with FP1 sessions, maybe the young driver test or the rookie race that might happen after Abu Dhabi. But largely what I hear you say is that you have the opportunities. You need to just prove that you're fast enough and that you have the results enough to sort of be eligible to get them, because there are 2 times the number of rookie sessions in FP1s available. Rookie test details should sort of come up as the season in Formula 1 also progresses. But since performance in Formula 2 is so critical, especially this being your 3rd year, how is the Alpine helping you excel in Formula 2 this year?
No, they're doing a lot, especially like even compared to last year. Like now we have Julian heading the academy again, so he's working very closely with me. We speak after every test. He's there on track, and Alpine is more focused always on the driver, and they want to get the most out of the driver. So it's very nice to have someone like that, just no bullshit and just telling you how you're doing or what you can do better, or what they feel you can do better. So there's a lot of in-depth reports after every race. I have to report as well what I felt, and a lot of calls and conversations. So I feel it's a lot more. I mean, Alpine are really helping a lot, and even with the opportunities which I might have with FP1s, as you mentioned, in the end, it's a dream, and then to even have that opportunity, obviously it's not set in stone, but to know that it can come about if I just do my job is a great piece of motivation, and it just shows that they are doing a lot for young drivers, which is amazing.
Have they set a target for you? Is it, and every time I've spoken to Helmut Marko for any of his junior drivers, his first thing is he has to win the championship. And then I'm like, but Dr. Marko, you have 5 Red Bull juniors. You want all 5 to win the championship? That's not possible, right? So what is Alpine's target for you? I know winning a championship in Formula 2 is like winning the lottery. You need everything to fire together. There's limited track time. It's literally about the team and driver making the least number of mistakes, if that's one way to look at it. But what is the target that Alpine's sort of given you? I know you have your own personal target, but is there a benchmark that Alpine has set up for you? Because you've also got Gabriele Mini as one of the other Alpine juniors with you in Formula 2.
No, I think we have work-ons at the start of this year, looking at last year myself. So working on those, showing them that I'm making the effort to work on myself as well, to be self-critical and to grow as a human as well. I think that's high in the priority list. Obviously, performing is there, but it's more on the process. In the end, the decision will come if I am high up in the championship. But to get there, that's where they're really helping, especially Julian, and we're just trying to get that process right and try and be adaptable, because as you know, F2 you never have perfect weekends in F2. And it's like you said, you get 10 points or 12 points a weekend, and come the last weekend, you're fighting for the championship, because that's how F2 is. So it's just about reducing those mistakes and not making the mistakes again and again. I think F1 teams are very serious on that. You can make a mistake, we're all human, but to learn from it is very important as well.
Yeah. And you said there are some work-ons that you and Alpine have identified. Anything that you can share with us that you are comfortable expressing publicly? So even your fans are able to sort of see that this is what Kush really wanted to work on, and we can see that he's made, only if you're comfortable sharing one or two easy ones that can be spotted on the camera. I know the F2 coverage isn't as in-depth with a lot of data for us, but anything that you'd like to share with us on what those key one or two work-ons are?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick one. One would be being more adaptable in the car. Obviously, we've seen that when the car is exactly how I want it, we're there and we can pull it. But when the car isn't exactly how I want it, to get the maximum out of myself and the car, and to be adaptable. I think that's one work on, for example, which Alpine and I are both working hard on. But like that, there's more. But obviously, that's just sort of to give you an idea of what it is.
That's fantastic. And thanks for, opening up and sharing a lot of your possibilities, your opportunities with Alpine in 25, and how you're also working with them on excelling in Formula 2 in 2025 as well. Because what you do in Formula 2 will give you that jump up in Formula 1, much as it should, given that it's the final stepping stone, on the ladder. But how does it feel to be the Indian who's closest to getting that break in Formula 1? Because that also is, we get a driver every 5 or 7 years, or, at least between you and Jehan, there was a smaller gap. But before Jehan and Karun and Narain, there's been a large gap. How does it feel to be the driver who's closest to having the chance at a break in Formula 1?
No, I think, looking at my career, we have been through a lot of crap, and I never really thought I'd be here, to be honest. Especially after COVID hit and we didn't really have a drive, or I've always had flashes of speed, but we never really put a full season together. So to be here right now and to have the chance and to have the trust of a world champion in Mika and Alpine Formula 1 team, and to have their trust is just a huge confidence booster. And all I can say is would make a great story if I did make it one day.
Fingers crossed, and I will be one of the loudest cheerleaders if and when, not if, but when that happens, because I know how hard you and your family and the entire team is working. And talking of teams, you were actually switching to Formula 2 now. You were actually a part of Invicta last year. They won the team's championship. You played your role in that. Did you get any special bonuses apart from a pat on your back from the team? Like, how did you and Invicta celebrate the team's championship?
I mean, for me, obviously, I was happy for the team. And I mean, I still, when I see them in the paddock, they're great people. And I always say hi to them. And there's just great people. But sometimes it just doesn't work with a driver and a team. It doesn't click for whatever reasons. And it didn't click, So for me, this is my career, and I'm trying to make it to Formula 1. So for me, it was just being professional after the race and just shaking everyone's hand, hugging them and saying thank you for the year and good job, and then leaving and starting my new chapter. It's just how cutthroat it is. I literally walked out of the Invicta garage and went to the Dams garage, and put down all my suits and everything, and that was it. Like, that's a new chapter, and that's how racing is. It's mad. I remember I was with my with my trainer, and we were just like, this is crazy, It's so weird. You spend 1 year with the whole team, and then you just shake hands and you leave. So yeah, that's happened twice now, obviously, with Campos, Invicta, and now Dams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it is cutthroat. I mean, you'll still hold them dear in your heart, but you're rivals with them this year because you're racing for competition. But one thing I've really loved about interacting with you, Kush, is how honest you are about yourself, and most importantly, what you feel when you're in and out of the car about the opportunities that life has given you with this motorsport journey. And you said something very interesting to Formula 2, the official website. You said, and I'm not quoting you, but what I remember, you said that you got overconfident after good results in the first couple of rounds last year, right? Can you elaborate a little more on this?
Fighting for pole for 4 races in a row in the start of the year, and then some races not being in the top 10, that's like a huge hit mentally because you're like, what happened? I'm fighting for poles. I should be fighting for poles every weekend, but that's just not how F2 works. Like we just spoke about, and that's one thing which my mindset's changed this year is just be consistent, and you're not gonna pole every race, and you don't have to. So yeah, I would say I did get a bit overconfident, which led to a bit of frustration when I wasn't fighting for pole. But again, there's a lot of which I can't really. I mean, it's pointless to say here, but there's a lot of stuff that um, goes into F2, and for whatever reason, I mean, sometimes we were second and a half off, which I haven't been in a while, so that's quite crazy, and I'll never know. But I'm just glad to still be in the phrase.
We'll get to the second and a half and a lot of things going in Formula 2. But what I loved about that confession is A, you could feel it, and B, you felt comfortable expressing it. I know you work very hard with Dr. Sri Advani, a very dear common friend of ours, on the mental side of things. But why do you think this overconfidence set in the first place?
I think it was just, I mean, naturally, every time I did a lap in qualifying, my name was flying up to the front, and that was 4 races in a row, and you just feel on top of the world, and you feel like
Obviously.
nothing can bring you down. And I think Hanumanji was like, nah, fuck this guy. Let's bring it back down to earth and teach him a lesson. So in a way, I got humbled really quick, but I took a lot of lessons from last year, which I can use to be a better racing driver in the future. So yeah.
Thank you. That's very honest of you, Kush. I know we've lived a lot of these highs and lows together on the WhatsApp chats that we share. But for you to be able to say it publicly to a larger motorsport audience, that's really cheering on for you. Hats off, or rather, helmets off to you, as we'd say in motorsport.
In the end, for me, like every Indian fan it just means so much to me. I've seen how it's grown, and I've seen how involved they've been, and it hurts when I'm not bringing them the results. It hurts. Honestly, it does hurt personally, and that's one of the biggest frustrations is not getting results home to my country. So, I mean, I want them to be, and I do feel like they're part of this journey as much as I am. So, that pressure does come on a race weekend, but I wouldn't have it any other way because it does push me to be the best.
That's fantastic. And how have you then, hence, through the winter, sort of worked? I know physically you're very fit. Warren, your physio, fantastic guy, always around. When you're not replying, I'm chatting with him. So I get a lot of information even from him. But how did you work over this mental aspect? Because there were two things. First was, this whole overconfidence that you very well explained. But the second, which is a lesser explained part of your journey last year, were the technical setbacks. I mean, you never went out to the media and said, hey, there's something up with my chassis. It was Jack Doohan who said that you had, a cracked chassis for 5 races. The team never put a statement out. So we technically don't know publicly what actually was happening. Then at some point, there was an engine change as well. So a lot of emotional strengthening that you would have had to do over the winter. What have you actually done, and how have you addressed it for 2025?
No, I think, like you said, there was a lot going on behind the scenes, which I've never really said. And I won't, because in the end of the day, I'm a professional, and this is racing. Stuff happens. And for me, the team did set up to win with both cars. In the end, every team wants to do that, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But, it's not me to rub their name in the dirt, and they're great people, and I really enjoyed working with them. So putting that aside, this winter was probably the hardest I've worked on the mental side and even physical. Like, it's just been a great winter camp. We've looked at all my weaknesses from the year before and how in the same situations how I could have done better, which there's always those situations. And I really have given it everything before the start of this season, and I feel there's no stone left unturned. I feel like there was in the start of last year, but this year I really have given it my all. So I feel like a stronger driver, but more importantly, stronger in the mind and happier in general.
That's fantastic, because in the winter you can't really work on your driving directly in the Formula 2 car, given that you're not allowed to drive it. So I understand it's in the gym, it's with your mental training sessions that you can strengthen yourself. Look forward to seeing how all of that transforms into pace for you in Formula 2 in 2025. You, of course, have switched teams with Dams. The last couple of questions. Of course, the opening round in Australia, we were all shocked with the penalty that you and Jack picked up. Basically, it was Dams. They put an extra sensor, they drilled it onto the car
Yeah.
in preseason testing that was outside of the regulations. And then one of the three teams that were given the penalty, Dams was one of them. You just took the penalty yourself. Were you aware of the team actually doing this at any point, or did you just know of it once the penalty was awarded?
No, I mean, it was on Jack's car, and obviously, I don't think even Jack knew about it. So, and I don't think we actually ran the sensor in the end because, I mean, the FIA saw the holes, like the holes drilled, and so in the end, I mean, it says in the official document, we didn't get any data. We didn't run
Yeah.
the sensor in the end. So, that penalty was unfortunate. But as soon as you drill holes like that, it shows intent, and that's all it takes. So, in the end, I feel like, yeah, we deserve that penalty. It was tough to take, but rules are rules. So, and I think the team see that as well, and it's a lesson we all learn.
Luckily, one race was wiped out because of rain, so you didn't get the impact of the penalty. Of course, the sprint race, there was an impact. But in general, were you happy with the pace that you and Dams showed in Australia?
FP obviously being P2, and then Quali obviously the spin when I was on a purple sector 2 lap, which was going to be quite decent. So a mistake from my side, obviously having that penalty definitely affected my mind, where it was just like I wanted to do pole or nothing. And that's something where I'm working on as well. And just gave it too much and had a overcorrection and went in the grass. So I feel the car was strong. And I feel all through Barcelona testing and everything, it's been really strong, especially in the races. Obviously, Australia sprint race was tough because when you start last, it's in the dirty air with so many cars in front of you. It's really tough to show your pace, especially on a track like Australia. But overall, I'm very motivated and very positive about what we're going to see. I think the team are great and we get along really well, and we've shown some very strong pace in the testing, and I'm excited.
You're excited. We're all excited. I know you have a short break at home before you head off to Bahrain for the in-season test, where again, the penalty is carried forward. Everyone else gets to rest for 3 days. You're getting 2 days of testing. How much of a disadvantage is that to miss out on one whole day of testing?
No, it definitely is. I think we miss out on some data and we miss out on 2 sets of tires, so each. So it is a disadvantage, but in the end, quality counts, and we just got to make sure we run our plan for those 2 days. And Bahrain is a track that we've driven a lot in, so us getting up to speed will be quick, and then just running through our test plan and running through our items. And I think we'll be fine,
So last couple of questions. I know you have to go and spend some time with your family. I'm going to ask you the Indian thing. Can you just not drive more laps on the other 2 days and make up for lack of testing, or do you just run out of tires then?
No, you do run out of tires, but as I said, 2 days, I feel is enough to do what me and Jack have enough experience in the car. It's more running through our test items and getting those ticked out. And we're looking at the positive side, 2 days is enough, and then normally you get 0 testing on a race weekend. So
True.
I feel we'll be fine, and no, I'm looking forward to it.
And where do you see yourself finishing in F2 in 25? If you were just to say, I'm sitting with a crystal ball, this is where I'll be in Abu Dhabi.
Well, that's very much in the future.
Yeah, very much in the future. I'm literally asking you to pick a lottery on your own self.
For me, I have goals for sure for this year, and the goals are clear. But from what I've learned from past years, it's more working on myself and making sure at the end of the year in Abu Dhabi, I predict that I'll be happy that I gave everything and I left no stone unturned. And as long as I do that, which is in my control, um, whatever happens, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and I know how you believe in the process more than the outcome. That's a very Sri Advani thing as well, which is why I understand if you don't say I'll be top 5 or top 3, because it's not the number that you're targeting. It's the process of, your own self in the car, out of the car, and then whatever happens, because ultimately it's all, a play of fate, right? For all of us.
I mean, it's easy for me to say that in an interview, but I mean, we all do think about the future, and that's one of my biggest struggles actually in the last few years. So it's something I'm working on. So
yeah. And when do you sit to decide about 2026? I know it's very early to ask you, but say, is it after 4 months into a season, 8 races into a season? When do you normally sit with Guillaume, your manager, and your father and the family to decide about the next year?
I think we'll have a good idea sort of midway through summer break. I think on opportunities and stuff. And I mean, depending on how F2 is going and if I get FP1s, how the TPC is going. By mid-year, I think we'll have a good idea of what we're looking at. But again, it can even go on till November, December. It can go on for a long time. So, but I think we'll have a good idea where we're set at.
Wish you all the best, Kush. Thank you for flying the tricolor high. I'm one of those who can just wear it on the t-shirt. You are one of those who can put it on the podium, in a Formula 2 race. Thank you very much for your openness, your time, and your honesty, and wish you all the very best.